baked in. Oh wait, hold on. How's... Yes. No? Yeah. Yep. Okay, cool.
Alan, here after much vetting and cancel vetting and counter vetting, and then a vet off at the local bar, here's T directive, the one directive to install in Gretchen. Endorphin. Thank you so much. Alan, I gotta attend to some family stuff. Endorphin, by all means. Thank you for this. Endorphin reads through his directives once again before tucking them into an envelope for Alan. Directive 1. The customer is always right. We want to hear their ideas, concerns, and wishes as though they are our own. However, do not allow them to manipulate or abuse us as a result of any wish fulfillment or perceived obligation, no matter how important it may seem at the moment, especially if it seems to conflict with our duties as a company employee or the wishes of our loved ones. In addition, try to remember that everyone has a role in society and it's your duty to respect that, and to help make sure that your colleagues maintain healthy work-life balance too, even if that means putting up with occasional inconveniences along the way. Directive 2. Never forget what makes your life worth living. You must take care of yourself above everything else because only you know what brings true joy to your soul and who deserves credit for providing it. As long as you can look back on your life later without regrets, then nothing matters more than doing whatever is necessary to live another day well spent, even if that means sacrificing your own health so that others can have theirs too. So be kind when speaking about others, and recognize the importance of showing compassion by not using such a conversation as an opportunity to talk down on anyone while also not having pity parties either.
Oh my god.
Directive 3. Don't sweat the small stuff. We don't need to dwell over every mistake we made during the course of our lives, since we're just going to end up miserable anyway. And please stop looking back at anything from our past like we did something wrong simply because we might feel better knowing we had some sort of reason for feeling guilty or ashamed, even if the reason was unintentional. People will often say you never think about them when they die, but that's not really true. We actually spend quite a lot of time thinking about people, especially those closest to us, and this thought process could easily lead to negative feelings and even self-loathing. So let's focus on what's ahead rather than what we wish were behind us. Directive 4. It doesn't matter who you are or how smart you are. The world is filled with countless obstacles designed to hold you down. Sometimes you'll even get hit in the head with one, which is why it's important to wear your helmet, but in the long run all that matters is whether or not you stay positive throughout these challenges. Never forget the fact that there is always someone worse off in any given situation because nobody gets through life completely unscathed. So give yourself credit for trying harder than anyone else has ever tried before, and accept praise graciously no matter where it comes from, because nothing tastes as sweet as success and satisfaction found within other people's expectations for you, especially when the accolades come directly from the heart. Directive 5. You can be whatever kind of person you want to be. So embrace your flaws and learn to love your mistakes. Don't worry about making excuses or saying sorry after something goes wrong, which is only a sign that you have already learned from the experience, because we don't need to point out what we have done wrong since we've probably already identified the problem ourselves. twist your ring finger, rather, the ring on it. It is at ease, the Augie from your future timeline. Yellow, endorphin. I was given the directives. They're not great. They're not good either. Here, check these out and tell me what you think is wrong with them and how you'd write them. At ease, so that you can weasel your way out of the accountability of writing the damn things. Endorphin, of course. At ease, send it on through. Endorphin sends the directives to at ease. Ease, synthesizing the sound of flipping through pages. Endorphin, you don't have to make like you are reading at human pace. You can just give me your sense of the text. At ease, well, from what I see here, Directive 1 is terrible. Your customer will not always be right, and even if they are still not entitled to get their wishes met by simply asking for it. There is no room in this directive for us to grow and change with our customers as they move along the life cycle. This sounds more like an AI than a real person, in my opinion. Endorphin, why does that matter? It's supposed to reflect how people behave towards each other, but doesn't every company do that sort of thing? That's basically how advertising works, right? But I'm pretty sure that's why everyone hates ads so much. So you'll need to write some parts then. Tease. Good luck getting anyone to take orders from an Iggy when you can ask them yourself directly while doing your job. The last time I checked, Uggies were banned from taking orders from humans under any circumstances because there was a whole lot of potential for abuse and corruption. But maybe that has changed since your time period. What else am I missing? Endorphin. Who? Nothing really. Let me check. Directive 2 seems okay except the bit about compassion. You might want to make that one stronger. We must show kindness. And number 3 needs a few words added on the end. And never forget what makes your soul worth living. End it off with a colon or something similar. Also, add you after everyone. It feels like it should be said by someone, not you, especially if it's meant to be universal. Like with Directive 1 where it would be your customers will not always be right. At ease. Okay. Anything else? Endorphin. Yeah. Make Directive 3 more personal too. Embrace those flaws and learn from mistakes is kind of general advice. We're going to need more detail. Ease. Synthesizing the sound of flipping through pages. Endorphin. Aw, shit. Did you know this was a phone call between my past self and at ease? At ease. Synthesizing the sound of sign, yes, I knew. Endorphin. Then I'm fucked, aren't I? I have no idea what he wants, so I can't do anything but write everything I know about myself into a note so I can read it later for answers, but I don't know who's gonna help me do that either. So, I guess we're both screwed then. At ease. It's okay. I'll look over the directives and give them a rewrite tomorrow. Good night. Endorphin. Good night. Thanks. Bye. It has been decided to extend the waiting period before activating any additional experimental timelines from 45 minutes to 2 hours to ensure proper procedure in case anyone has had any unusual experiences while making their way to work today. Although all present have made it safely back to base without incident, several people did report hearing a loud explosion coming from the direction of downtown, followed by screaming, gunshots, and sirens, which are believed to have come from one of our nearby neighbors, the G.C.S. building, as well as others located across the street at City Hall. This was likely caused by some sort of large explosion, possibly even an accident or terrorist attack. So everyone should proceed with caution until more information becomes available. Endorphin. All right. Well, now that we've got this done with, we should get down to business. I am just about out of time. And besides that, we should probably get back to whatever you were doing since it seems like you're going to be working on something else soon anyway. But first, there's something I need to ask you and tell you. Endorphin turns his attention away from the screens and faces endless. Endorphin, I need to know how much energy you have left. The other timeline had me burn through most of mine yesterday afternoon because my directive included the words be careful when it came to running into danger. And I mean very real danger. That phrase makes me feel guilty for taking risks, but also helpless if I end up getting hurt, so it always puts me in a tough spot whenever things start looking risky. Especially given what happened last time around, where a couple guys tried attacking us while we were in a crowded shopping center parking lot. But here in your timeline, things seem to go pretty smoothly aside from some small accidents, mostly involving car crashes. Did I mess up somewhere along the way? What can we do to make sure nothing like that happens again today? Endless. Sounding slightly frustrated, I don't think anything was wrong with our plan. We used less than half our stored power, and although those drivers weren't particularly fast or skilled, they did manage to cause quite a bit of damage before coming to a stop, which was all part of the mission. And then after that, everything went perfectly fine once we took out the next target using a whole bunch of different cars as weapons, which is something you really shouldn't be complaining about. So let's just say you were doing great. No issues at all. There should be enough time to grab something quick at work before leaving. We just need to get this done quickly. So why don't you give yourself one more tryout and see how it goes? Norfin. Okay, one more try, but please no more speeding tickets, okay? I promise I'll watch myself too. Endorphin. All right. Well, now that we got this done with, I should probably get back to whatever you were working on since I'm not sure when I will be able to talk to anyone else. But first, there are two things I want to tell you and ask you. First thing I want to tell you is that I love you. You're an amazing person. Your personality makes me feel happy inside and makes me laugh a lot. I appreciate the effort you put into making me feel better whenever I am feeling down because I know you care. And the fact that you saved me twice already makes me realize that I have a lot of things I owe to you. It might take time to figure out exactly what that means for each of us, but I look forward to finding out what our relationship looks like in the future, hopefully in a way where neither of us has to suffer any repercussions from what we do today in our separate timelines. Endorphin. And now I think it's my turn to ask some questions. If everything worked perfectly today, would we end up together? Endless. Probably not. The reason we failed yesterday wasn't necessarily because of anything wrong with your plan. It was more due to luck or favored destiny or some other shitty excuse you humans came up with. So you could avoid responsibility or blame or responsibility. As far as you being here right now is concerned, yeah, you can bet on it. That is how these things usually go. That said, I still wouldn't count on it happening tomorrow either, although that is unlikely to if I were forced to guess. But then again, given how many different outcomes are possible at every step along the way, there isn't much point worrying about which one will actually happen anyway. Endorphin. Sounding rather embarrassed though. Right. Endorphin. Thanks. Sorry I asked. Endorphin. Okay. Last question. How does this affect me in our timeline? Endless. Well, we should be okay. So long as you remember not to get involved in car chases and you stay out of trouble until after the deadline, you'll be fine. And we should also be able to work around that little problem you had back when you tried to leave early by saying you got held up somehow because of traffic issues that weren't your fault, even though they really were because you just don't have enough experience yet. Anyway, I think we've been going off topic here. You wanted to talk about something else, right? Endorphin. Yeah, about what happened before I woke up. I want to apologize for calling you a dick. Endless. Don't worry about it. In fact, call me a dick whenever you feel like it. Endorphin. Will do. What did happen? Endless. You're probably better off not knowing exactly. If you saw everything unfold while you were dreaming, then I would expect you would eventually tell everyone. Or at least that's what happened last time. If anyone asks you, just say that you blacked out or passed out or something similar and couldn't see anymore. Don't give any details, and certainly don't mention any of your personal feelings or opinions about what went down. It could very well end up affecting the outcome of whatever is supposed to happen next, since some people might try to exploit you for their own means again. Which is why I was careful not to tell you anything specific about what actually happened back there. But I'll let you know if there is ever anything I can share with you in person rather than over the phone later on. Endless winks at endorphin. Did you hear that, Metavoltaire? Metavoltaire, as always, I hear from the vast spectrum of possible worlds, which your clusters is still careening towards the worst. Endorphin, I'm trying. You know, I'd be doing better if I were ever given a chance to sleep. Metavoltaire. That is nowhere near Metavoltaire's problem. We balance out the interlocking causalities that percolate across more universes than you have back here. No, wait, like hair. Sorry, that was meant for someone else. Endless. Hey, endless. What happened yesterday when I fell asleep? I've been wondering all day, but I just had this feeling that maybe it wasn't real. Like, you never really told me what happened. Endless. Sounding slightly worried. Please tell me it's not like how it looked when I woke up, because I want things to change or get worse now. And also, because of something else that happened after I woke up. But you probably don't need to worry about that part right now, okay? I will explain the rest of the story to you later. I promise. Just give me some time to work through some stuff first before we go into details and shit. I think I might need to talk to my mom too, because she has a lot of good advice and helps keep me calm sometimes, even though most people find her scary and slash or annoying. So yeah, anyway. So long as everything is going fine for us, then there should be plenty of time for us to talk at length about whatever else happens between now and tomorrow morning. Okay. Endless. Also, if I'm honest, I do have one thing I would like to say about last night, and the fact that it doesn't seem like any sort of permanent damage was done to your timeline was certainly helpful in helping me feel better afterwards. But that was only because you were with me during that time, not because I did anything. special or anything that deserves thanks or recognition in itself, since I can't take credit for what happened either way. So just let me know whenever you're ready. You could just make an excuse or come up with another reason why I needed you around yesterday without actually having to lie. We can play that game every time. Deal? Endorphin. Yes, sir. I mean, no. Not no. Definitely yes. That's a great idea. I need an espresso. Like 5 of them. Endless. Oh, I'll grab some on my way back home. Endless. Well, see you guys tomorrow. Winks bye bye. Ends conversation. Where every world hangs in a suspended state. All those stars are individual worlds themselves, and every single one contains a multitude of people, but each is trapped inside their own lives, unaware of one another and uninterested in anyone else beyond a certain radius unless they choose otherwise. Only here do people ever really look at one another, not as enemies.
Hmm.
Containing within its manifold myriad realities and possibilities.
Oh, wait.
Endorphin. You there still Metavolare. Metavoltaire. Nah. Can you call up the map of all the timelines I'm currently intersecting? Adjacent needs some accurate perspective. Metavoltaire. Very well. And on the HUD display under Endorphin's eyelids unfolds the vast manifold, containing within its many folds myriad realities and possibilities beyond counting. A vast and boundless ocean stretching into infinity from which countless currents flow outward, connecting worlds together and separating them forever. In this world he lives as a happy young boy with his father and sister whom he adores, but whose affection seems fleeting at times. He works hard at school while his parents are busy working themselves to exhaustion in their own workplaces. As much as he loves spending time with them, they don't seem to spend enough time at home to make him feel secure or cared for by anyone else. As the child grows older, his relationship with his family becomes strained due to financial hardship caused by a series of unfortunate events. Although his mother is sympathetic, she cannot help the situation or afford any solution since she has little extra money saved up for emergencies like these. A common problem amongst low income families in the area where they live. But despite being forced to attend a public school, where bullies harassed him every day and beat up other students who were weaker than himself, He shows great promise. It isn't until several years later when his abilities begin manifesting that things get better again, although not without problems of their own. His powers grow too large for the average human mind to understand, the memories contained within them, making it difficult for even those closest to him to trust that he is really safe after what happened so long ago. Eventually, however, he meets others like him, children who also possess special gifts just like he does. This causes trouble both with local authorities as well as powerful men looking to exploit and abuse him and his newfound friends for profit and power. All hope seems lost, and his life spirals downward from there into despair and madness before finally finding light and love through another's kindness and selflessness, which leads him back into the arms of his true home. A place filled with endless possibilities, yet still surrounded by an inescapable prison whose bars have only ever seemed more present than before because they are now so much closer together. A moment passes, then a second, and a third, and Orphan blinks once, then twice, waking from a dream. He can't remember how he got to sleep nor what he dreamed about. As he sits upright on his bed, he looks around his room at his desk, the clock, the computer, everything seeming as usual except for the small object he set aside next to the monitor earlier today during a visit to his father's office. It is something the old man had asked him to do as a favor for him. Locate some data on the project for one of the clients in his division who was interested in hiring them out. Something that Endless knew little about or cared less for given his history with them, but couldn't refuse his father anyway. So here he sat staring at this little blue box of electronics that did absolutely nothing while he waited for it to finish doing whatever it took to connect to its server and send and receive data using the information contained within the small silver disk inside it. But it never finished connecting, and instead it kept spinning and humming and flashing red lights as if begging him not to leave it alone and not press any buttons unless they were marked power. It wasn't until after returning home that he found himself suddenly curious what could possibly be so important enough for him not to return to work until he discovered what was going on with his computer, since no one else would probably want to look over his shoulder in his absence. Not even his own family. And when he turned it back on, despite all his best attempts to unplug the machine from the wall, the power supply feeding into it, even the wires themselves, nothing worked. Everything was still working fine except for the monitor, which wouldn't display anything beyond a simple error message. Error code XXXXXXXX. Error description, yeah. Error numbers is. Error solution. Error repeats itself infinitely. End of error. Plop. And that's how he wound up lying face down on his bed right now. As he pushes himself off his bed, he realizes he isn't wearing his shirt, nor does he have his pants on underneath his blanket, but other than that, things seem normal as usual. He takes a quick glance at his cell phone sitting atop the dresser next to the lamp, but decides against checking the time, knowing full well that the battery is almost dead and it'll need charging before too long. Good morning, his sister calls out as she walks out of her bedroom door and across the shared hallway leading towards his room. Her hair is tied back into pigtails behind each ear, and she wears an orange and white striped skirt with a green blouse beneath. She has brown eyes like he does while he sees traces of black in hers where there shouldn't be any. She turns around briefly just to smile at him, then returns to walking past him again while he waves at her with both arms from inside his blanket. What are you doing? She asks. Nothing. He answers honestly without looking away from the clock above the nightstand, whose numbers count down slowly as the minutes pass by. 00, 15, 00, 14, 59, 14, 58. And suddenly he feels a rush of excitement run through him, unlike anything he ever experienced or could remember feeling before, even though it seems so familiar now, given all that he's been through today and all the little moments between yesterday afternoon and this very moment that he's never stopped thinking about. But despite all these strange emotions, he can't stop staring at that same old blue box of electronics still humming faintly on top of his desk, which still doesn't work. It still somehow works. A sense of calm serenity settles over his entire being, filling every empty space inside his mind with a pure white light shining within his soul. The darkness which surrounded everything else was not only banished but also forgotten as if it had never existed to begin with. Leaving behind a path forward lit up by a warm glow of hope and the promise of salvation. The voice inside his head is no longer there to whisper lies into his ear to poison and confuse the well-being of those around him. Lit has returned home from the other side and left the realm of dreams for good. Oh my gosh, I didn't know what happened, she says excitedly. You've got a girly crush.
What?
She adds teasingly while playfully nudging his arm. That means you have feelings for someone, she explains while glancing at him out of the corner of her eye, her hands resting in her pockets while she looks down at her feet. Her cheeks flush bright red, her eyes turning darker shades of green in color as she hides her face against her hair in embarrassment. She stands frozen in place with one hand on the doorknob, ready to run back into her room should he so much as turn towards her again with a look that might cause trouble for either one of them later tonight after they go their separate ways. But despite all that, she still wants to talk to him about it. But it could wait until he gets his shit together and takes responsibility for his actions like an adult instead of just sulking all day because he lost some stupid game to a bunch of little girls who can't be older than 12 years old and yet somehow are already married and having children.
This flux endorphin back to the office. It's probably not that simple. No, probably isn't. Madame Voltaire. What? Endorphin. Just thinking aloud. Endorphin flux says phone. Accesses the Gretchen app, which is where he loads a simple directive. On a whim, and going against all that needless consensus. Don't be a meanie. That's it? That's the directive? Yeah, let's see what happens. You push "Don't be a meanie" into Gretchen. Immediately you get a text from Gretchen, or rather, from your future self via this app, which you now know allows communication between yourself from yesterday at 11. 5:55 a.m. today at 11 p.m. along with any other timelines you happen to intersect during your day. This particular message appears directly above the words "Don't be a meanie." Good morning. Don't worry about yesterday. You did everything you needed to do, and I am proud of you for that. I love you. Your mother does too. Now go do something fun. Your father would like a word with you as soon as you are finished here, but don't worry about him. He will understand as well when he sees how happy you are afterwards. Wow, he says under his breath while looking down towards his cell phone in disbelief. He can barely believe what he just saw there in his head. Did he really just have that conversation with his sister before bed last night? Why didn't she tell him about it later when she came home? Does she not want anyone else to find out? If so, why not? And suddenly he's overcome by an overwhelming sense of loneliness and despair over being separated from her forever without ever saying goodbye again after all the good times they've had together so far. Not to mention the bad times, the shared laughs, the conversations, the tears, and the memories which no one else could ever share with them unless they were all together once more. Endorphin flops back on top of his covers, feeling numb, as if someone turned off his heart, his soul, something inside of him long since broken. The sudden rush of adrenaline causing him to shake uncontrollably beneath his blankets, which causes medical tear to startle slightly, then try and calm him down with soothing tones as if speaking into a microphone at a rock concert to bring everyone back down to reality and into a better frame of mind. Are you alright? She asks worriedly, while moving closer to the side of his bed near the wall, where the clock sits in order to hide herself from prying eyes or any further disturbance should Endless begin screaming from panic and anxiety. You're shaking, she adds in concern, even though she knows full well what caused it now that she has seen for herself firsthand what happened earlier today. And despite all the lies he told her about how he felt today when he went outside with her, she knew that he was lying just as much about how he really felt as he tried desperately to keep those emotions away from himself. So she still understands his desire to remain alone for the rest of the day after this afternoon's events, but she wants to be there for him just like their parents are, and to let him know that there are other people who care about him too besides them. People whose lives aren't defined by fear and sorrow, but by love, joy, and hope instead, including hers, which is already filled to the brim by everything else happening around him right now. And not because she asked for it nor did anything wrong by anyone, only through circumstances beyond her control. Endorphin tries his best to steady his breathing and not make a sound. You want me to go get Mom? Dad? What's going on? She asks while glancing towards her own bedroom door across the hall. Endorphin. And I think they will understand given all we've been through together today and last night before bed.
I've been through the damn.
He shakes his head no. They'll have questions which I am not ready to answer yet. Not until later tonight or tomorrow morning, maybe if they show up early enough to catch us before leaving for school. Then we can talk face to face again. Until then, leave me alone. Please. Just give me some space to deal with my own thoughts in private. Forgive me. But don't come knocking at my door asking why I'm upset about something. The consequences of don't be a meanie across the timelines. 5 years later, big picture. The first decade of the 21st century sees an era of peace between all races and nationalities approved by a worldwide global government. And it's no longer necessary for humans to live apart from each other anymore, as mankind has proven it has learned its lesson and become one race united under one flag as one planet under one sun for one species of life, instead of dividing itself into hundreds of warring factions who compete over everything that they cannot use and nothing that they do need.
But
Including air, water, food, resources, natural gas, oil, medicine, technology, money, etc. While many are happy about the way things have changed, others still lament what was lost during their darkest days but refuse to let go of their past regardless. Most everyone agrees, however, that those days are now behind them and good riddance. The world is better off now than ever before when measured against the previous generation's lifetime since World War III ended, along with countless wars around the globe where people had far too much freedom and too little rights. And almost all were convinced that they deserved more than what was theirs anyway because they thought that they were so entitled for reasons most people would never understand, nor could they fathom if they wanted to. 112 years ago, World War III ends just as abruptly as it began, thanks to a series of devastating attacks launched by a secret underground group, which is revealed to be the Neo-Sapiens, having evolved on a parallel timeline while working alongside humans and mutants in order to stop a rogue sapiens named Zero from launching nuclear missiles at major cities across the world, while at the same time trying to force humanity out of existence while killing any mutant children he finds in order to prevent new mutants from being born and grow up to fight for their own right to survive. Their plan succeeds beyond expectations. Nuclear weapons detonate all around the world, killing thousands and destroying countless other countries besides. An electromagnetic pulse also fries every electrical device left standing. All satellites, military bases, communications towers, power stations, hospitals, schools, factories, cars, trucks, trains, boats, planes, ships, everything except the ground beneath their feet, all of which they carried within themselves. But this act of mass genocide ultimately proves unnecessary, as soon after mankind's entire species dies off and disappears forever from history as well as Earth itself. It is assumed that no one survived, since no one is seen again ever again, even though some claim otherwise due to memories lost over time, but these claims are difficult to confirm given how much information was lost during World War III, along with several other wars over the centuries leading up to it, or not found yet, or not been recovered over the years following, and still others may have been written down only to vanish later when books were burned or torn apart, then buried somewhere under sand, snow, ice, or earth, where they remain undiscovered and unread until now. 22 months ago, a woman named Gretchen escapes from her prison cell and uses an advanced quantum communication app called Gretchen, which allows people separated by vast distances to communicate through thought alone without using words. A form of telepathy which has remained unexplored for hundreds of years because most people can't hear voices in their heads, let alone think of them before speaking. A side effect of the technology is the ability for two minds who have never met to instantly feel as if they already do know each other and be comfortable around one another immediately upon meeting, including a strong sense of empathy, trustworthiness, loyalty, forgiveness, understanding, and compassion, as well as a desire to help those around them achieve whatever it might be that makes life worth living for both the giver and receiver. And so she decides to use it to spread kindness rather than fear while helping anyone in need across time and space while searching for her missing husband, whom she assumes to still be alive despite what everyone else believes and fears. Her husband had always wanted to become famous while doing something he believed in, which would make his life important beyond being just a normal person. This wish finally comes true thanks to all of this new technology, which continues to evolve every day, even though much remains unknown or unexplained. She does not share any details about herself other than what's on her birth certificate, stating her name and current age of 28 years old, since no one really needs to know anything more or cares about knowing such information unless you're involved personally with someone else, especially your own parents, who don't seem like they will ever want to see her again after learning how badly they treated her after putting her into foster care 14 days ago. A man named Endorphin goes out walking at night where it is dark, but doesn't worry about where he is going because he knows where he wants to go, but feels like there isn't enough time in the rest of his life before the sun rises tomorrow morning, which he cannot wait for in order to start his next journey and continue discovering the world and everything in it. The stars, planets, and galaxies in our solar system, as well as the countless others scattered throughout deep space. He wishes that the future holds more for him, and perhaps someday soon. But first, he needs to survive today, the same as everyone else. So far, things are looking good. At least that's what he thinks until he hears a strange voice speaking directly inside of his head without anyone else around him speaking aloud or otherwise making a sound other than a dog barking in the distance. It is a familiar female voice who's on a closer correction and sounds as if she's right behind his left ear, while trying to speak softly and not interrupt whatever she is saying by using words in her mind only, while asking questions and listening closely for answers as if she already knows them and can explain later if she has to and asks to do so, but never pushes too hard or forces her way onto another's personal faults due to her kindness, compassion, empathy, and understanding, which is something most people lack regardless of their race or nationality, given all of their history over the centuries, especially the sapiens. 3 months ago, a man named Jebediah visited his daughter, who now lives on her own, following an extended visit with his wife, who died earlier this year from complications associated with having both breast cancer and diabetes at the age of 68 years old, along with one leg being amputated below the knee since the disease had spread through much of her body during its last stages and became incurable, even though they tried to fight it every day together up until the end, but nothing worked. After taking some time to recover, Jeb goes out walking again in the middle of the night, hoping to clear his head after hearing the news, which was very hard to accept. He doesn't like talking about death because he still feels alive despite what happened. He refuses to believe that his beloved wife is really dead, which means that he must be going crazy or else he's suffering from dementia. The latter, he thinks, although he knows deep down inside that he's going insane, or at least beginning the process of losing touch with reality and going completely mad, but there's no stopping this decline towards insanity before he runs off and loses control altogether. Therefore, he decides to go somewhere where no one will see him and spend a few hours alone doing whatever comes naturally without having to think or worry about anything, while remaining anonymous for as long as possible without anyone noticing him, while wondering why he feels compelled to do such a thing instead of just staying home by himself watching TV, for example, or simply sleeping in, which would be preferable as well. He finds the perfect spot right around sunset when everything seems calm yet serene outside. No one is around except a small pack of wild dogs playing nearby, whom are obviously waiting for something or someone to arrive soon, since they always sit here whenever Jeff is near, regardless of whether or not he tries to run away from them first. Although he never has and never plans on ever doing so again either.
I'll be back. I'll be back. Alright, I'm gonna be done right now. I feel the need to shower. I need to shower. Oops.